Okay, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Podcast Action Committee, episode 116. Andrew Eisen here, along with Zachary Knight. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, Andrew. How are you doing?
I'm on call, and I've hidden my phone under a towel in my bathroom so I can't hear it, which means we can't go too long with the show. I do have someone
You got someone covering for you?
covering for me, so.
Okay.
So it's cool. It's cool. I'm not shirking my responsibility. Hello, MonoRX, who's the first time here in the chat. So let's see. This week I have been playing Hyrule Warriors still because that game is chock full of content. My goodness, you know, this game is a lot longer than I thought it would be. I'm actually all the way through the main campaign mode, the story mode, legend mode.
Yeah.
Which again was actually longer than I thought. It's 18 scenarios, but if you want to collect all the goodies, you have to go through it again in hard mode. But so I have the full walkthrough done, and that's up at IGN. If you guys are stuck up finding if you want to know where the heart pieces and sculptures are. Currently going through adventure mode. I'm about 15% of the way through that, but adventure mode is 128 different scenarios, so it's really, really big. And a lot of them you have to play a couple times because, you know, like one will have 2 Skulltulas hidden on it. Can you collect them both in the same run? No. So you have to go through it a second time to collect the second Skulltula. Oh well. You know, one interesting thing I forgot to bring up last week when I was talking about it was the game, as you would expect, is not voiced.
Really?
There is a narrator who between the levels will... Link and his cohorts went over to Death Mountain to smack Daruni in the face. And, you know, there's a narrator between levels. But other than that, all of the characters speak in, huh? Huh?
So they do the whole Link expression stuff, huh?
Yeah, there was a couple of voice things like Navi. Spoilers. Navi shows up and goes, "Hey, listen." Midna speaks in her emotive babble, that same emotive babble that she had in Twilight Princess, which I always thought was really cool and worked very well. And Fi speaks in her auto-tuned gibberish, which is still grating on the ears. The rest, you know, Link doesn't speak. He just stares at you and nods. And the rest of them, I think probably the most obnoxious conversation is between Lana, who's the new character, the sorceress with the spellbook, and Agatha, who's the little girl from Twilight Princess, who's the self-proclaimed princess of the insect kingdom. And those two face off against each other. And the dialogue balloons are going with this, who are you? Oh, I'm Agatha. I'm the princess of the mushroom insect kingdom. Oh, well, I've got to get you through here to find the Gate of Souls. Oh, the Gate of Souls? Well, I know someone who could... And, you know, there's all this dialogue, but they're... What? And you're like, oh, stop! This game really should have been fully voiced. It feels weird to have these elaborate staged cutscenes with all the characters standing around, and they're blocked. You know, they all have their position, they move, and they're animated, but they don't actually speak. They just kind of grunt at each other, and it's so off-putting. They really should have voiced it, I think.
Does Link have dialogue in the game?
No.
Okay.
He has,
so they're keeping true.
Yeah, he has his own fairy named Proxy. Good name. He ostensibly reveals his name to Proxy because when she meets him, she's like, "Hey, who are you?" Link, huh? That's an interesting name. You're like, I didn't hear him. He must have like wrote it down or something, or whispered it to her. Couldn't hear him over the din of the battle.
He turned his shield around, you know, to show his name on the shield.
Yeah, where he has, you know, he has like his name written on the band of his underwear. And he's like right there. Let's see. So Link doesn't need a voice. I'm fine with him being a silent protagonist. He's got his fairy to speak for him. That's fine. But I really feel they should have voiced the rest of the characters. I don't think it would have been out of place or would have hurt anything. I think it would have improved the experience. But
yeah,
still a fun game. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. So so you mentioned in the shout box the whole season pass thing. Have you learned anything new about it? Like what all you get?
Well, like the season pass. They're not calling it a season pass, but that's essentially what it is. For Mario Kart 8, we know what type of content is in it. Like, we know there are cars, we know there are tracks, we know there are characters, but we don't know what all of it is. Nintendo seems to be making a game out of it, and you're trying to keep interest up by telling you what it is, a new thing, revealing a new thing every week. The same thing with Hyrule Warriors. We know that it's 4 DLC packs, and we know what's in the pack. Like, Pack 1 has 1 weapon, 1 character, 1 stage. Pack 2 has 2 weapons, 1 character, something like that.
Yeah.
But we don't know specifically what it is. Although yesterday, I think Nintendo revealed that the new weapon in the first pack is Link's Force Epona, which is pretty awesome.
They got a weapon? That's...
I'm pretty. It would be awesome. I'm pretty sure he's not going to, physically pick Epona up over his head and, start beating enemies to death with her. But he's just riding her and, doing mule kicks and stuff, and probably slashing from horseback. Yeah.
A weapon. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's really cool. It's like, wow, Tingle better be one of the new characters. Damn it. So, what's interesting? Let me. I have the game right here. Let me go into the. So, what have you been playing this week? It's going to take me a minute.
Okay. Well, this week I started playing SteamWorld Dig, and actually I finished it this week too. It's not a very long game. I was able to beat it in about five hours, and I got it from the latest Humble Bundle. You can actually get it if you look up, just Google SteamWorld Dig. It's available for $10 through the Humble store. But yeah, I was playing that this week, and I actually enjoyed it. It wasn't a very long game, but it was a lot of fun just to explore everything. In it, you're this robot, and you're in a little small mining town in the middle of the desert, and you just have to explore the mine and and figure out what happened to your uncle who died. I guess robots don't normally die, because when you die in the game, the local blacksmith robot fishes you out of the mine and fixes you up, and that's the narrative explanation for coming back to life. But so you explore it, you mine for minerals and gems and stuff, and find upgrades to your equipment. So you get got a pickaxe, you get a drill, and then you get like a little rocket fist thing, and various other abilities and things. But the game is the ending of it, the final confrontation, it was actually pretty fulfilling. So it was well worth the 5 hours I put into it. But the game itself is just kind of a little circular, because you mine in order to get gems, which you sell in order to upgrade your equipment so that you could mine more and get more gems. And it just kind of goes in that circular pattern. There's you do get upgrades like a double jump and dash and all that kind of stuff, which helps you do more exploring. But overall, there's not a whole lot of content to the game, and And some of the abilities, you use once or twice, and then you never use them again. Like the running dash, I used that a couple of times, and then hardly ever used it. It's like, and the couple of times I used it was like right after I got it, because to exit the room where I found it, I had to use it in order to get out. And so, but the game itself, I enjoyed. And they're working on a new game, Steam World Heist, and they have a teaser trailer out. They don't have any gameplay or anything, but it's going to be a turn-based battle game, space battles. So it'll be interesting to see what the game looks good. Like the teaser trailer looked really nice, but I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of gameplay they have going on with that one, but that won't be until sometime next year when they release it. So.
Yeah, I haven't seen the trailer yet. I want to look at it. SteamWorld Dig, so many people recommend it. I want to try it, but it looks boring. So, I've talked about this before, but I'll probably give it a go at some point. And Heist, I'm looking forward to. Remind me in a second to talk about the trailer for Metal Gear Solid 5. The Quiet trailer, because I have something to say about that. So I'm looking at the eShop in which the main menu on Thursday. Nintendo added a little eShop link to the main menu of Hyrule Warriors. It says there's $20 of downloadable content that you can go get. Click here. So you click here, and it takes you to the eShop, and it doesn't tell you what the hell the downloadable content is. Here is what it says on the eShop for $20. What, $19.99. Ahem. The Hero of Hyrule pack is now available for purchase. This includes the Master Quest pack, the Twilight Princess pack, the Majora's Mask pack, and the Boss pack. Purchase the bundle to immediately receive the exclusive Dark Link costume.
Nice.
It also tells you that you get the Dark Link costume on purpose. The Master Quest pack is in October, Twilight Princess December, Majora's Mask in February, and Boss pack in March. It does on the eShop. It doesn't tell you what the hell you're buying at all, even vaguely. And that's what I was tweeting about the other day when I was giving Nintendo a little bit of guff for that. However, hang on. There we go. Why didn't that work? Okay, there. However, in order to figure out what the hell you're buying for $20, you have to do some research online. It's not on Nintendo's site. Some people, I don't think it's on Nintendo's site. It wasn't the last time I looked, but I found some articles describing kind of vaguely what's in it, which is, if it's still in the shout box, let me see. Okay, the combined packs include 1 new scenario, 2 new weapons, 3 new adventure maps, 7 new costumes, not counting the Dark Link, and three new characters and 2 new game modes. Okay, so that I don't mind, because that's telling me I don't know what it means by 2 game modes, but or what those are. But that's at least saying, oh well, I know what characters are, I know what weapons and scenarios and adventure maps are in the context of this game. So that works for me. But just saying, hey, give us $20 and you'll get some content. It's like, I am not inclined, to drop 20 bones on something I don't even know what it is. But.
See, now, when they get around to releasing the Link to the Past and Link's Awakening DLC, that'd be really awesome. Because that'd be cool to be able to get Bow and then the Flying Rooster, and but only if the Flying Rooster allows you to throw a boomerang, grab the Flying Rooster, and have the boomerang hover around underneath you while it smacks enemies. Because that was the greatest part of Link's Awakening. But yeah, there's because I think it would be cool to do the Dark World Link before you find the amulet that allows you to stay as Link. But the little pink bunny rabbit thing from Link to the Past.
I haven't played Link to the Past yet, but I own it.
Oh, so you haven't?
Well, it was on sale in the eShop a couple of weeks ago, so I bought it. So
it's definitely worth playing.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You got it. Play it.
Some people's absolute favorite. In the chat, STL Creators has a prediction that the packs will include classic Zelda fan service, Twilight Princess fanboy fan service, Majora's Mask fanboy fan service, and boss fan service. I think you may be right there, STL. And Tingle better be some of that Majora's Mask fan service, I'll tell you what.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of trailers, you were talking about the heist trailer. I watched a trailer for Metal Gear Solid 5, which focused on the character Quiet, who is the sniper wearing a thong, ripped hose, and a tie-on bikini top.
Yeah.
Which is... I'm sure makes sense in the context of the story. I'm sure there's a really good reason she's dressed like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I watched this trailer because I was saying, what are they doing with this character? Why is she dressed like an idiot? It's possibly the dumbest trailer I have ever seen. That's incredible hyperbole, but I'm in a weird mood. She's in a helicopter about 150 feet off the ground over some sort of dock with shipping cargo containers and cranes and stuff. She jumps out of the helicopter without a parachute, lands on the ground next to a bunch of armed guards, and then vanishes, like she has some type of cloaking, natural mutant cloaking ability, or her underwear has a cloaking device built in. I don't know. And then the guys are like, and then the squad of people with machine guns are like, "Where did she go? Where did she go? Did you see where she went? Where did she go?" And then one commander goes, "I have an idea. Use your thermal goggles." It's like, no one thought of that? It took 20 seconds for someone to go, "Oh, we should use their thermals." So they use their thermal goggles, and they're like, "There she is!" And she uncloaks and just stands there. And it's like, "Let's shoot her. Do you think we should shoot her? Yeah, let's shoot her. Okay, let's shoot her." And another guy goes, "Wait! Let's shoot her." And then Big Boss comes in and goes, "Wait! Let's not shoot her." And they're like, "Oh, man." And he, like, goes up and, like, pats her on the shoulder and says, "Take her away." And then she kind of just stands there like she didn't hear him. And then she turns her head and looks at him. Actually, he nods like it's going to be okay, even though she's not looking at him yet. And then she looks at him like she just noticed he was there. And then turns around and walks away, while the other gun-toting guards follow her. And then the second guy to go, "Wait," was Revolver Ocelot. And he turns to Revolver Ocelot and he goes, "I know we're going to have to kill her someday, but not today. But when that day comes, when we have to kill her, which is not today, but that day will come, I'll pull the trigger myself." I'm playing it up for laughs, but that's essentially the beats for the trailer. It is so weird. It's the weirdest damn trailer I've seen.
Is weird. Yes, that is weird, and it's a terrible weird. It's not a good weird or anything.
No, it wasn't a good weird. It was like, I don't get it. What's good? There's another trailer with a dog, which is fine, because, you know, Revolver Ocelot has a little wolf puppy with one eye, so it gets an eye patch too, just like Big Boss. And Big Boss lands in the helicopter, and the dog is, and he picks up the dog, and the dog starts licking his face, and he does this for like a full minute, when he could just totally, you know, pull the damn dog away from his face if he doesn't want to be licked. And then Revolver Ocelot says, "I will train him, and he will be the best damn dog assistant you've ever had." Even by default, because you've probably never had one. And then the camera pans to the sky, and it goes dark, and it goes light, and it goes dark, and it goes light. And I counted, so it's been about 8-9 days. Suddenly the dog is fully trained and fully grown. And the dog jumps in the helicopter and they go off somewhere.
Nice.
So, of course, I don't have to worry about Metal Gear Solid 5 too much because it's for everything but Wii U.
Yeah. So somebody asked here if let's see, who was that? This is way out there. somebody was asking who, now that here we go. Nestor was asking if now that Hyrule Warriors out, is Nintendo of America actually going to start advertising and pushing Bayonetta 2? What do you think?
Bayonetta is the end of October, so I would imagine it's going to be another couple of weeks before we see any big marketing push. Whatever they decide to do for Bayonetta, it's probably not going to happen till at least 2 weeks out. Smash is coming out next week, so I don't think we'll see any Bayonetta stuff. We had a Nintendo Direct a few weeks ago. I wouldn't expect to see the commercials or other advertising until probably a week before, unless Nintendo just completely buries the game and doesn't advertise it at all, which would be a bit silly.
Yeah, that would be a terrible idea.
Yeah. But they devoted an entire Nintendo Direct to it, so I would have to think that
they are taking it at least somewhat seriously.
Yeah, unless the money people are saying, you know what, everyone who's ever going to buy this game already knows about it, so it's not worth spending money on advertising. So, we'll see. Matthew asks, what did you ask and where is it? Have we seen the bad Smash 3DS advertising? The advertising I've seen for Smash Brothers on 3DS is the Solve It and Smash, or not Solve It and Smash, Settle It and Smash, I think it is, where you basically have two kids and a dad like, clean your room. We don't want to clean our room. Settle it and Smash, and then they play Smash Brothers to settle their differences. And there's like 3 of those commercials. I think they're okay. I think they're kind of fine. Have you seen them?
No, I saw a Japanese one that I think is similar to that, but it's just like, a bunch of people and then some people on the subway, and then they kind of fly off and turn into Smash Brothers characters, and and then on a playground or something, and just various scenarios like that. So that's the only one I've seen. I don't watch a lot of advertising.
Yeah, I don't have television, so I don't see. The only reason I saw the commercials is because Jesse Hart, one of our Over the Pond viewers, sent me a link on Facebook and said, you should do a YouTube parody of this. Because I did parody the I'm Not a Gamer advertising campaign from like 2 years ago. And I could parody this one. I do have I can think of some things to do, but it requires other people, which it takes time and coordination that I don't have right now, so probably won't do it, but you never know.
Yeah. But Nestor, if E3 was anything to go by, I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
He is asking if Reggie and Iwata settle things through Smash, and they did that whole E3 when they introduced it. The 2 of them turned into Miis and started battling each other in 3D or in Smash Brothers. So, yeah.
Yep.
Iwata wins all the time. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, okay, let us talk about the poll this week, which is not the most responded to poll we've ever had. I think it's the fastest growing, but it didn't quite.
Probably,
it didn't quite reach the same heights as Microsoft's DRM policies doomed the Xbox One. We had 2,072 people respond to that one. This week, the poll asked, "What is #GamerGate about?" And we had 1,855 people reply, which is by far our second most responded to poll.
Oh yeah, we haven't. Have we had any other polls break 1,000 votes?
We had one in the 900s that I remember, and several in the 800s, but I think those are the only 2 that have broken 1,000.
Okay. Yeah.
So the impetus for this poll was because, being game politics, we do discuss GamerGate a lot in the shout box and in some of the article, the appropriate articles comment sections. And what I had noticed is no one can really agree on what the hell hashtag Gamergate actually is, or what it... Get away from me, you flying menace! What Gamergate actually is, or what it stands for, or what it's trying to accomplish. There are a bunch of radically different people have radically different ideas for what this movement is supposed to be. So I thought I'd take the most common definitions I had heard and throw it in a poll and ask our audience, what is Gamergate about? So we had 1,855 people respond. 5% said the fact that not all gamers are bad people, which is lower than I thought it would be, if I can editorialize before getting to the rest of the results. That's lower than I thought it would be, because I hear a lot of people talking about that. There is a perception, true or not, and as we've argued in the past with things like DLC, perception is more impactful than what you're actually doing. And there's a perception that the gaming press is denigrating gamers as a whole, saying that all of the ridiculous toxicity, all of the harassment and abuse, and all the nasty things that we're seeing on Twitter and message boards and hacking attacks and leaking information, that's all you, gamers, all of you. And even if it's not you specifically, it's your fault for letting the other people who are doing this happen. And so there are a lot of gamers out there who are really getting that sense from the general gaming press. Whether the gaming press is saying that or not is kind of academic. Yeah. So I was actually surprised that only 91 people voted for that one. It's only 5% of the vote. The most popular response, it's 70% of the vote, was rooting out malfeasance in game journalism. 1,298 people voted for that. So let's cover the rest of them real quick. Gamergate is about silencing those who talk about gender issues in games. 6% voted for that one. 2% said it's about eliminating cultural discussions about video games. 4% said, I don't know. So 77 people who voted don't know what the hell Gamergate's about. And 13%, 242 people, said it depends on the person using the hashtag, which I think is probably the most accurate of the poll responses. That's the one I voted for. It really does seem to depend on the individual using hashtag Gamergate, because, man, I've seen people talk about radically different things under Gamergate, and it's interesting how that can happen a lot. Yeah.
Now, one thing, I was really curious about this because, we've had Gamergate is a really active group of people, and so I was expecting, I was expecting a lot more than 1,800 people to vote in this poll, and I expected the vast majority of them to vote for rooting out malfeasance in journalism or games journalism, and so. So I was kind of curious, how this poll results would compare to our other highest poll, which was the Microsoft one, and that one was about, has Microsoft's DRM policies doomed the Xbox One? There we had 60% was our highest one, saying that it's basically killed the Xbox One, but the difference between that and the next highest poll result. Which was no, most consumers won't care, was 20, that was 25%. So there was only a 35% difference there. But with this one, the difference between the highest and the lowest, or the highest and the next highest, so it was 70% and 13%. So we had a 57% difference between the first and second one. So that's just kind of an academic look at these poll results. So I'm not saying that the poll results are wrong in any way. I just, it just does show that a lot of Gamergate people, a lot of supporters of Gamergate did vote in the poll, which is something I expected completely.
Well, yeah, because the nature of the poll, specifically its title, has hashtag Gamergate in it. So when I tweeted the article, it was tagged with that hashtag. So
Yeah.
One of the reasons the poll was drew so many people is because the hashtag is so visible in the first place. And
Yeah.
as Matthew pointed out, so only 2 of our polls have ever broke statistical significance. And also pointing out that we're a biased sample size. I mean,
Any
anyone
internet
watching on
poll
YouTube,
is...
yeah, essentially it is. We're not just randomly calling people at home. It's everyone who visits our website. So, yeah, these are just for fun. These are not scientific. These are just
Not at all.
talking points in discussion.
Yeah, these are what's called a self-selection survey. You know, where you just throw the survey out there and let anybody respond, and those are not scientific at all. You know, in order to do a scientific one, it has to be randomized in some way and put out a wide net where you're going out and asking people to fill out the poll rather than them coming to you whenever they want. And so yeah, so not scientific in any way. But
yeah, typically when we run polls, we're interested in knowing what our audience thinks about a specific topic rather than what is the general consensus of all gamers across the United States or world. It would be nice to get those numbers, but you know, we don't have the platform for that at this point. Maybe someday.
Oh, and going back into the actual results, I personally went with depends on the person using the hashtag, and to me, I think that's the safest response because sure, there's a lot of people out there who want to root out malfeasance in game journalism, whether they can actually point out specific issues or not. But there are a lot of other people who are using the hashtag for other reasons, for basically all the other ones.
To be clear, I didn't just make up the responses. These are actually reasons people have been using the hashtag. I have actually seen people use it in these manners. So these are not just something off the top of my head. These are actually ways that some people are using the hashtag GamerGate.
Yeah.
So,
but which is kind of just kind of an interesting story. I've had a couple of encounters with GamerGate people. I don't go out and try to interact with them because I find it to be a waste of my time, and it's based on my experiences on game politics and these other 2 events. But my 2 experiences with somebody coming to me from GamerGate. The first one was just somebody who I guess saw some conversations I was having on game politics, and basically accused me of promoting oppression and what was the other thing he said I was doing? But yeah, he was basically saying that I support corruption and all this stuff, and I was like, you get that from what? And this guy never responded to me. I asked him multiple times. I was like, hey, can you point out any specific instances where I've done anything you accuse me of doing? And he never responded with any of that. And then the other instance was I got an email, just some random email through a contact form on a website I run, the OK Game Dev website, and the guy was like, I could actually read the email. I won't read his name or anything because it's kind of pointless to do that. Yeah. But the subject is just answer an email, or just answer a email. So grammar's wrong there. And then the entire message was just reply to one of my email. Grow a pair and do it. I'm just a customer. I'm not the enemy. No capitalization, no punctuation other than a comma and a period in there. But it's just to reply to one of my emails. It's like I've never gotten an email from this guy. I went through my entire spam folder and couldn't find a single email regarding GamerGate or anything, and so I had absolutely no idea who this guy is and what he's expecting me to respond to, and so if this is the level of discourse that I can expect from GamerGate, I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, I think the problem is that GamerGate, like everything else, has its fair share of obnoxious assholes.
That's true.
You know, and unfortunately, the obnoxious assholes are the
loudest
I would
ones,
never
yeah.
guess what percentage they are. There's a great number of them. I have no idea what percentage of the whole that is, but they're definitely the loudest and most prolific, on Twitter
Yes,
and message boards and stuff. Your experience with that email that you got just from someone that you don't know who it's from and you don't know what they're talking about. This is completely unrelated to Gamergate. This happened a few years ago, but this was slid under my door. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is about or who stuffed it under my door.
But you keep it anyways because it's fun.
I have to wonder, did the person get the wrong apartment? Was this meant for 3214 or C3214? I don't. Boy, I can't get my apartments right. Yeah. As far as it's interesting because when I tweeted about when you talk about Gamergate, and there are plenty of perfectly lovely people who are willing to actually discuss things with you about Gamergate, even if you totally disagree. Like the conversations we had at Game Politics. I am very proud to say that I did not have to, not even once, did I have to bust out the mighty blue pen of moderation.
Yeah, we didn't have to
ban anybody. I didn't have to delete any posts. I was definitely debating things with different people, but no one called me an asshole. No one, no one was really being specifically mean about it or engaging in any personal attacks. But when I tweeted about the poll, and all it says is poll, what is hashtag Gamergate all about? And I got, one person tweets something very phallic at me. We'll just leave it there. Like, okay, so someone's mind is somewhere. And I had another person, the same person who was accusing you of something last week, came back and started accusing both of us of attacking someone for something. It seemed to be, attacking people who want to talk about journalistic malfeasance, or people who something about people who are emotionally abused or domestically abused, something like that. I asked him what the hell he was talking about, or if he could provide a quote as to what he's talking about. And he said Twitter is, 140 characters aren't enough. And I said, okay, partial quote, link, anything.
So that's
it's like, let's talk about it on a stream. I said, well, we're streaming. Yeah, I said we're streaming, today. You're welcome to drop by. And never heard back. I tweeted him this afternoon about an hour before the show, and I said we're doing the show in about an hour. Do you want to? You're more than welcome to drop by if you like. And he said, "Hats streaming now. Hats. HAT''S. Hats streaming now. You're more than welcome to face your audience." I don't know what that means.
I have no idea either. If he's actually, if he's saying, we've got some other stream going on and you're welcome to join us, maybe to that.
Maybe Hat is a person and Mr. Hat is streaming now. Although
I have no
Hat's
idea.
Audience wouldn't seem to be our audience, so.
Yeah,
and he didn't leave a link to who this was or.
Yeah, totally confusing. But
I am proud to say that we had lots of productive discussions on Game Politics. So there, take that, Twitter.
Definitely, lots of good discussions, and we've had discussions multiple times, like multiple articles. Not all of them are specifically about Gamergate. I think we had one that was about Anita Sarkeesian, and that one got in a big, long discussion about Gamergate. We had another one that was something about Zoe Quinn, and that one again went on about GamerGate, but the actual discussion on our poll article was actually really good to read. I enjoyed it. We had a couple of strange replies, where people just kind of made baseless accusations about game politics and the editor James Fudge and.
That was on Twitter though. Yeah.
No, there was one on.
No, you're right.
Yeah. And then we had one guy, not Chrono, Feist. I forget let me see if I can find his name. Faye Frost, and he posted a really long comment about basically, just describing the whole, from his perspective, what GamerGate was about, and that was actually a very informative read, and you had some exchanges with him about that, just.
Faye Frost and McTam, yeah. And that's where I was getting the, because what I was saying earlier about the fact that not all gamers are bad people, that's a sticking point for Mechatam and a lot of other people, is, see, from my perspective, I haven't observed the game press. I'm talking the Game Politics, Kotaku, IGN, Polygon, all the gaming press, not Twitter, not message boards, the actual gaming press. I have not observed the gaming press itself say that all gamers are bad people, are horrible, sexist, misogynist asshats. Or that, just like it's up to only you can prevent forest fires, only you can, stop people from harassing game developers. I haven't seen that happen, and so I would ask, where are you seeing this? Who actually said that? And I got linked to over 20 different articles over the course of several conversations. I read every single one, and not a single one of them actually says that. But what I'm finding is that's not the important thing. It's the Mechatam actually said something that finally struck me. It's it's the perception that a lot of people are coming away with, and it reminds me of our discussions with downloadable content in video games. It doesn't actually, if gamers have the perception that you yanked out content from the main game in order to sell it to them later, it doesn't matter if that's actually the truth or not, because that's the perception that the gaming populace has. Yeah. And instead of arguing about, no, we're not, you need to work on changing that perception. So I would argue now that I think the gaming press, although if our poll is anything to go by, and it's not, only 5% of the people are having a problem with this issue, maybe we as journalists need to do a better job of making sure that when we talk about gamers who are being nasty little putzes, we're speaking specifically to that segment of gamerdom right there, not everyone. Maybe we need to do a better job to make that more clear so that false perception doesn't perpetuate itself amongst all our various audiences.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I can't say for sure, but I don't think I've ever made any statements that say, all gamers or a good, a majority of gamers were attacking Anita Sarkeesian, or Zoe Quinn. But my perception of GamerGate is that the whole thing started as an excuse to attack Zoe Quinn and other female developers and other female women in the talking about the games industry or whatever. That's my perception, and it's a perception that I picked up early on because of the whole Zoe Quinn scandal. I looked at people. I don't know who exactly, but right at the the beginning of the whole GamerGate thing, somebody was in the shout box, and trying to get James and the two of us to take note of the Zoe Quinn stuff, and possibly write something about it because he thought it was something important. And I looked into it, and what I saw was a disgruntled and jilted lover. Or ex-lover, who decided to, instead of moving on with his life, to attack his ex-girlfriend, and you know, I couldn't see anything in his accusations that that had any element of truth to them, you know, or at least nothing verifiable, and so I just brushed it off as just some jerk ex-boyfriend who wanted to make his ex-girlfriend's life miserable, and apparently he succeeded. And so at that, yeah, and so at that point I was just like, you know, whatever, you know, it's nothing, you know, nothing I'm going to take interest in. And then the whole GamerGate thing, you know, sprung out of that because of her relationship with the writer from Kotaku, and I looked at that again and didn't see anything nefarious or out of character in that situation, and so again I brushed it off. But people kept bringing it up and kept you know, tying everything back to Zoe Quinn, and you know, anytime I've asked, you know, hey, do you have any examples of where, you know, a journalist has violated journalistic ethics? And pretty much every example I'm given is something to do with Zoe Quinn, and you know, they can't think, you know, nobody's been able to find any other instances where they can point to some journalist violating some ethical rule, other than generic, you know, these guys didn't disclose this, you know, that they got the game for free or whatever, you know, and to me, you know, that's not a big deal. And
yeah,
so,
another thing that I found interesting was a lot of the folks who are talking about GamerGate as a way to root out journalistic malfeasance and expose, you know, ethical violations in journalism. And again, to be clear, this is not everyone. I'm speaking to a certain segment of GamerGate. They talk about, you know, journalists have no ethics. So that Zoe Quinn person, who is a horrible person, and they harp on and on and on about Zoe Quinn. It's like, why are you harping on Zoe Quinn? And they'll say, well, because, you know, ethics in journalism is important. And my question is Zoe Quinn is not a journalist. She's an indie game developer. Why aren't you harping on the person she allegedly slept with to get a good review? You know, it would seem to me that if your goal is actually ethics in journalism, you'd be focusing on the journalist and his breach of ethics, not the person who's not a journalist, which I always found really weird. And in case anyone who hasn't heard this whole story, the ex-boyfriend, who is some dude that none of us know, this isn't like you know, a known developer or any personality or a YouTube star, just some guy. The only specific thing he said in relation to game politics and journalism is that she slept with a particular reviewer at a website in order to gain positive coverage for her game, which was obviously untrue because the journalist in question never actually reviewed or previewed her game. In fact, barely ever. The only time he mentioned it was in passing. He did a recap of a game jam, and twice he said, Zoe Quinn, creator of Depression Quest, and that was the only thing he ever said about Depression Quest. And this was before he was both alleged to have begun a relationship with her, and before the journalist said he began a relationship with her. So.
Yeah, and it just it boggles my mind too, because, you know, there's a lot of conspiracy out there saying that Kotaku deleted his positive review of Depression Quest after this whole thing started, you know, as kind of a cover up, but nobody can find any you know, archives of this supposed positive review written by him, and you know, which is very surprising considering a site like Kotaku is archived almost every day by the Internet Archive, and you would think they'd be able to find a link to that, but no, they can't, and so it, you know, comes across as a complete conspiracy to me. But, you know, but I guess, you know, kind of moving on from all this, you know, because we're cutting into a lot of time here, but in our second article about this, following the poll, we asked our audience, what is your GamerGate wish list? Specifically, what would you like to see come out of the, this whole GamerGate thing? If you want to see something change, what do you want changed? And we didn't get as many responses to this as we did to any previous article.
I got a very penis-tastic tweet at me for it. But,
I try not to actually use the hashtag on Twitter. Anytime I
it is kind of dangerous.
People, I leave off the hashtag, but that's just me. But we had some good stuff. A reader, Bill, he posted to the Society of Professional Journalists ethics code, and then put in a few things, about avoiding conflicts of interest, real or perceived, and disclose unavoidable conflicts. Refuse gifts and stuff. Everything. Don't let game publishers fly you out to Hawaii to wine and dine you before the release of some crappy first-person shooter. That sort of situation. Which I don't think. Well, flying the press out to specific events, I think, has happened, a few times that I remember. Most often, the press will, the editor or whatever, the owner of the blog, the website or whatever, will actually pay for the flight and access to events. But I don't think very many publishers pay for that. But they do get a lot of gifts. There was that whole, quite a few things. It was the Dante's Inferno game where they were sending like checks and stuff like that to game publishers. Just like, here's a check for $50. If you depending on what you do with it, will determine your type of greed, or stupid things like that. And then there was the Brass Knuckles one that got a lot of good laughs because Brass Knuckles
was that Mafia 2? Which one was it?
Yeah, I think it was a Mafia game. But Brass Knuckles are illegal in almost every state in the U.S. and they sent them out to everybody. That one was a good one. But yeah, it's like don't pay for information. That's another good one. And a few other ones in here. Distinguish news from advertising, and that one's one that I particularly like. It's kind of hard to tell how often that happens in games journalism because I don't really pay attention. But occasionally you will see certain sites, and usually these are smaller sites. The larger ones like Kotaku and IGN and GameSpot and those types of sites, they don't do this as often, but occasionally there'll be the sites that will just rehash a press release or something, and but I don't know if any of them actually do let publishers basically post an article. That would be completely stupid, I think. If a publisher was allowed to just write an article and have that published. So, but yeah, another one, respond quickly to questions about accuracy, clarity, and fairness. And I think that kind of goes along with, respond quickly to accusations of violating ethics. And that's probably something that I could think actually was kind of a big deal after GamerGate broke, because a lot of websites took what could be seen as a little too long to actually respond to these accusations, and they may not have said the exact the right thing in those situations. So that's definitely something I could see.
I tend to be a little sympathetic towards the gaming press, maybe because I'm kind of part of the gaming press, but a lot of I think a lot of the problem was location and timing. There are a lot of people who legitimately had concerns, founded or not, about ethics in journalism, and really had specific and to them very important questions to ask. And unfortunately, a lot of them were asking them in places that were being really, really unclean.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have an article, you'd have a comment thread starting, Zoe Quinn is a horrible ball of slut. And you would have, and you know, people would respond in kind, and the person would say, hey, did you disclose this one thing that you were supposed to disclose? And then would go back to, you know, Zoe Quinn is ball of slut, blah, 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 blah. And then the thread gets closed, and this one person is going like, well, hey, my question never got answered. Why are you censoring?
Yeah.
And I understand, and I'm, you know, way oversimplifying that, but that was the kind of thing I think was happening. And it was interesting because, you know, the whole Game Journal Pro group thing broke a week or so ago. For those of you who don't know, there's a private message board for game journalists. There's about 150 people. Most of the top editors of most of the sites you read have a login to that private group. Not a secret group, private. There's a difference between the two. And they discuss, and they, you know, talk about stuff like you want to do. You know, it's kind of like your email. You have a bunch of contacts in your email. It's not a secret. I know you have email, but it's private. I can't read it. Where was I going with this? Oh, so so a lot of the GamerGate stuff did get discussed in this group, and one of the things that was discussed was an escapist thread, which was predominantly really nasty comments about Zoe Quinn, but it was also it also included a lot of people posing serious ethical concerns with the way Escapist was running its site. And Greg Tito, who runs the site, was trying to figure out, should I close this because it started as a way to as harassing someone else, or should I continue heavily moderating it and leaving it open so that the people who are not being jerk faces can talk about the stuff that's important to them. And Ben Kuchera of whatever the hell he writes for, I forget.
Polygon now, I think.
It's Polygon now? Okay.
I think it is, yeah.
Argued that I think you should close the thread. And Greg said, no, I think I'll keep it open while continuing to moderate it. And then two other journalists popped in, one supporting one side and one supporting the other side. And that was it. And to some, that narrative became, oh my gosh, game journalists are colluding and dictating the narrative of the entire gaming press. You know, they're using peer pressure to make someone conform to the way they want things.
Yeah.
Ignoring the fact that this was a 5-exchange conversation between two people with input from only two others. The guy was not convinced and went on to do his own thing. No one threatened him to change his ways, and no one offered to pay him money to change his ways. So I'm not seeing any ethical problems with that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I don't understand. You know, a number of people in the GamerGate community are making a huge deal out of this Game Journals Pro Google group, and you know, personally, I can't fathom why. You know, there's a lot of people have come to the defense of Game Journals Pro because, you know, it's a group of like-minded professionals, you know, discussing things that have to do with their profession. You know, I'm personally I'm a game developer, I'm a web developer, and I'm also an amateur journalist. You know, I don't make any money at being a journalist, so I'm an amateur. But I'm involved in web development communities where we talk about web development stuff. I'm involved in game development communities where we talk about game development stuff. And while I'm not involved in any specific journalist communities, I do have relationships with other journalists in specific topics that interest me, and I communicate with them on a regular basis, to ask their opinion on how I should approach a story, whether I should even write about that story, if I should wait, for more information or whatever, and and I do this mainly because, again, I'm an amateur. I have experience writing, but I'm still young in it, and I still have questions and stuff, and it's very important for me to be able to have professionals be able to be able to bounce ideas off of, and so that's mainly why I don't see any problem whatsoever with the Game Journos Pro group. It just it doesn't make any sense to me why people are using that as evidence of nefarious deeds by the game journalists. But that's my view on that specific thing.
Yeah, and just to full disclosure, I guess, James Fudge, who's the managing editor of Game Politics and the producer of the show, I guess, technically, is on the Game Journal Pro list. In fact, he's the one who keeps linking about it in the shout box. So, just in case anyone's wondering about that.
Yeah, he is. I've seen some accusations that he's trying to hide his involvement in a lot of this stuff, and that was one of the things that I was actually responding to in one of our earlier articles. But James has probably been one of the most forthright and open about this. He's tweeted basically every article that talks about Game Journos Pro or something out. He's tweeted a link to that, says, "Yep, that's me," and he's put it in the shout box. While he hasn't written an actual article on Game Politics about it, which is, as far as I'm concerned, isn't as necessary because nobody's making any specific accusations about him. But he has been open about his involvement in Game Journos Pro, and so that I think is very important, and I'm glad to see him do it.
Yeah. So okay, I think we need to. It's been an hour. We need to briefly go over our last few topics. If anyone has any questions or specific things about GamerGate, we can talk about this next week if you want. What is it? superpackpodcast@gmail.com is our email address. Facebook, Twitter, tweet us questions, topics, things you want us to talk about. I don't know why I'm looking here. And we can do that. Moving on to a new topic, however. Comcast. Comcast, you know them, I know them, we all love them, wants to merge with Time Warner Cable, and says that Comcast and Time Warner Cable are not competitors. In fact, it would be way too expensive to compete. Saying that Comcast and Time Warner Cable do not exist in the same market. They don't exist in the same area. So no matter where you live, you never have the choice between Comcast and Time Warner Cable. So what possible? How could them merging be a problem? Why would the FCC ever have a problem? Yeah, but before you respond, this kind of reminds me of this whole thing, the old gangster stuff from like the 30s, where the different families would all have different territories, and they would purposefully stay out of each other's way. This is kind of what it feels like with Comcast.
That's exactly what it is.
Oh, okay.
It's like Time Warner and Cox. They have specific. Sometimes they cross state lines and they share a state, but they never actually compete with each other in any specific locality, and and really that's it's mainly between Comcast and them, and I think Cox is the third cable provider that I know of. Those are the three big ones, and none of them cross paths anywhere. And sure, they compete with smaller DSL providers and Verizon and a few other AT&T, I guess, is another one. And these are mainly phone providers who also get into the internet business and TV business. So it's just Yeah, and so there is no competition in cable. That's what I'm getting at. You know, their only competition is AT&T's Uverse. Verizon, I think, had television service through their fiber, and then satellite, and which I guess means there's competition, but
Well,
not really.
Comcast cites Google Fiber, which is available in, what, 3 cities?
Yeah,
3? I
something
think
like
it's
that.
3.
Yeah.
Fixed wireless providers, which ain't going to cut it for, especially for us gamers, and municipal providers, which is one of the most disingenuous things they could point to, because I think in, what is it, 20 states in the U.S., there are laws on the books that severely restrict, if not outright ban, municipal broadband networks.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, North Carolina is probably one of the most visible instances of this, because there's been several cities and towns in North Carolina who tried to set up municipal broadband, and then the local cable companies went to the state capital and told them that basically convinced them that it was bad for cities to be able to do that, and so the North Carolina's legislature passed a law that pretty much banned it and killed a bunch of municipal broadband efforts, and that ticked off a lot of people. You know, made some lobbyists happy, and the cable providers happy, and some legislators who got some you know, campaign dollars out of it happy, but a lot of people, you know, a lot of voters were unhappy about it, and that's one of the interesting things about that is that, you know, these laws get passed by, you know, by Republican legislators most often. You know, I'm sure Democrats go along with it as well, but, you know, generally it's Republican heavy legislators that hits, and it's passed under the guise of, you know, keeping government out of the private sector, and but really it's, you know, the problem is there is no private sector, you know, in general, you know, to be had in these areas, and in one of the discussions, you know, somebody brought up the, you know, Infophile. He mentioned how, you know, in Scotland there's tons of choice there. You know, he said that he has a choice between 4 different cable and internet companies, and yeah, and you know, and I responded to this because the U.S. and the Great Britain are 2 totally different things, because over in Great Britain, they have mandatory leasing agreements where, you know, it was explained a little bit further down, but you know, British Telecom was the main ISP and cable provider at the time, and when that got broken up and privatized, basically all the lines and cables that they had out, you know, anybody could go in and lease them. So and there were no exclusive leasing deals or anything. So, you know, one company came in and leased the lines and set up service, and another one could come in the same area and do the same thing. And that's something that the U.S. is missing. Canada has a similar system up there too. And so it would be really nice to be able to do something like that here in the U.S. And you know, I'm of the opinion that really the only entity that I could think of that could run just pure cables, you know, just the infrastructure, would be the only entity I can think of that could actually do that and not be anti-competitive about it, would be the government. You know, just let the city government set up the infrastructure, pay for it, and then lease it out to anybody that would come in and want to use it. And so that would be something I would love to see, because I would love to have more than just my crappy ISP here.
Yeah, I mean, when I go back to visit my mom for Christmas, we don't have a podcast. We can't even do an audio podcast. They have internet out there, they do, but it's nowhere near good enough. You can't even do a Skype call. That's how bad the internet is. So.
But the other comment from Comcast was just they mentioned that them merging isn't going to reduce competition, mainly because they aren't crossing any borders anywhere. The other one would be it's too expensive to compete with other cable companies, and that is a symptom of the lack of infrastructure sharing that we have in the U.S. Because if you want to go into a city and compete, so if Comcast wanted to go to a city that Time Warner Cable was the main cable company, or vice versa, they would be required to set up their own cable infrastructure, and honestly, that is a huge waste of money, and honestly, it is very expensive, and that's why smaller cable companies don't pop up in large cities, because there's already existing cable infrastructure there, and they don't have the resources to relay redundant infrastructure, and so that's the big problem there, is that if we had line sharing, infrastructure sharing, then there would be no cost issues with opening up competition. So Comcast, in trying to defend their merger with Time Warner Cable, are actually making very compelling arguments for line sharing.
What do you think the FCC is going to do?
I don't know. That all depends. If they go to the route of declaring broadband and cable infrastructure as common carriers, which I guess if they declare broadband, it'd basically cover the cable infrastructure, because cable provided internet goes over the cable lines. Then that could very well open it up to line sharing. I don't know how well, because we still don't have very successful competition in landline telephone. Because here in my town, we only have one telephone provider for landlines. But I know other towns, you can get telephone through various companies over the same lines. So I could see that opening up greater internet and cable competition if they go the route of declaring them common carriers. So.
Yeah. Okay, let us move on to a new topic. And before we do, folks, anyone watching on YouTube, there's a live chat over on GamePolitics.com that you can participate in if you're watching live. I did miss a comment from Hardcore possibly correcting me at least, saying that regarding Zoe Quinn, it was positive press, not a positive review, which I've actually heard both. I've heard people argue that there was a review or there was positive press. There was actually neither, at least from that writer, at least not after they started a relationship. The Game Jam article, again, the only thing it says about Depression Quest is Zoe Quinn, creator of Depression Quest. It doesn't say if it's good, it doesn't say if it's bad. So I guess any coverage is good coverage, but I don't know what anyone would be expecting. I mean, was this guy supposed to... Darn, I mentioned a woman in her game. It's within the realm of possibility I might date her in the future. Should I disclose that? I mean, if I... Do you have to disclose your crushes? Like,
I don't know. Yeah, it's like, do I have to disclose that I have a crush on Jewel State, and then if I ever write about her, if she ever divorces her husband, and I divorce my wife, I might actually hook up with her at some point. Is that how it works?
So if I link a Gama Sutra article by Leah Alexander, and I have a crush on her, I have to, full disclosure, I'm crushing hard on Miss Alexander, and I might date her one day. I don't know that maybe you think that. Maybe that's really important that information is disclosed. I don't know, but
I find that that's a level of absurdity greater than being forced to disclose the fact that you actually paid for a game that you're reviewing, which I think is totally absurd. Because James wrote about a game the other day, and he actually put a disclosure at the bottom that said that he actually pre-ordered this game, and I was like. And my first thought was, if that becomes the norm, then I'm done with games journalism.
I don't know. That seems a bit much. There's the other thing where people have to disclose Patreon. If they write about someone and they're supporting them on Patreon, they have to disclose that. That strikes me as. I mean, I'm not against it. I don't have a problem, but I'm like, why? I mean, if the money was going. If the money was going the other way, that would make sense.
Yeah.
If I was writing about someone who was funding my Patreon, that would make sense.
That would make sense. That would be like, saying, if you're going to write about Blizzard, you have to disclose the fact that you're a World of Warcraft subscriber. It's like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see it if you have a Patreon, and then that a developer you're writing about has supported you on your Patreon, I would go ahead and disclose that.
I agree.
If that was open, there might be some. I could see some reasons to not disclose that if your Patreon supporter list was private. But if that is the case, definitely disclose that fact. But the other way around, no, I don't see any point to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you said, disclosing the fact that you bought a game. I'm like, okay. I mean, I kind of get the publisher provided a review copy for me to review. I get that.
Yeah.
But typically, if the review comes out before or at launch, the publisher gave them a review copy. If it comes out later,
most likely, yeah.
I bought it myself.
Yeah.
But
I've only had one instance of a developer giving me a free copy of the game. So well, I guess a couple of instances because Toto Temple Deluxe for the Ouya. I wrote a really good review because I loved their Juicy Beast Nightmare Tower. And and then when Toto Temple Deluxe came out, they sent me a free an Ouya gift card so that I could get it, which was really awesome. I made sure to disclose that. And then over on OK Game Dev, I've disclosed that where I got the game, because some games, there's some game developers will have a free version and a paid for version, and I'll usually mention which one I reviewed, and then occasionally I'll get an iPhone redemption code for games, and I try to mention that if I've used one of those. So, man.
Okay. And apparently Jeremy Parrish Jeremy Parrish mentions every time he writes about Mighty Number 9 that he backed the Kickstarter.
Go right ahead.
Jeremy.
If that's what you want to do. It's not important.
If it's important to your readers, hey, go ahead. I don't care, but that's cool. All right, so last topic, Steam. You know it. I know it. We all love it. Okay, so Steam now has 100 million active users. Goodness sakes, and that went up really quick from from 75 million less than a year ago. Wow. And they've added a few new features, some type of new search system which allows you to find stuff that you're interested in playing more easily, a Steam music player, and a new curator mode where popular personalities, editors of games websites, YouTube personalities can create curated lists of games that they think their audience might be interested in. So, but still no Half-Life 3.
So what do you think of this whole curator thing? Because what do you think about it? Do you think this is a good system for gamers and stuff?
I think it would probably be I don't know. I mean, it kind of from a games journalist perspective, it kind of sounds a bit more like shilling. But then on the other hand, we always write top 10 best games ever lists anyway. So I mean, there's not much difference.
Yeah.
I think it's probably going to be most useful and most used for YouTube Let's Players and that type of crowd. PewDiePie. I'm sure he'll, these are the games, a curated list of the games I've played.
Surprisingly, he doesn't have one yet, as far as I can see. He's not on the front page. He's not on the first page. So far, Total Biscuit, PC Gamer, Jim Sterling, Rock Paper Shotgun, and some Nerd Cube box set are the top 5 curators so far. And then Kotaku's number 7. And then I have absolutely no idea who the rest of these are on the top 10. But yeah, so far, we've got Total Biscuit. He's a YouTuber. Jim Sterling, he writes for The Escapist, but he also does YouTube stuff. Well, no, I don't know. His videos aren't on YouTube, are they? I can't remember now.
Yeah, actually, he does have a YouTube channel, I believe.
Does he?
He does, yeah.
Yeah, but PC Gamer, Rock Paper Shotgun, those are both pure websites. While they have YouTube stuff, that's not where they do the most of their work. Same for Kotaku, and I have no idea who the rest of these are, so I couldn't tell you. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. This reminds me. A website just a few weeks back was started by 11-bit games. They make the Anomaly Tower Defense games, and they started up an online store called Games Republic, and they have a similar curator system there. But the difference between their curator system and Steam's curator system is that you get commissions off of sales that people make through your store on Games Republic. With Steam, you don't get any commissions or anything off of it. It's just basically a top 10 list with links to where they can get those games type thing. But 11-bit, they mentioned that they started their curator system precisely for the reason they wanted YouTubers to be able to create lists of games that they're reviewing and be able to point people to those stores where they can find it, and then they could get a little bit of money back from those sales, and so that could add on to the advertising revenue they make through YouTube and other services. So I don't know how successful that Games Republic is at this point, but it's definitely a really good idea, and we'll see if Steam ever follows through. But yeah, that was one of the things I noticed, was that you don't get any commission or anything through sales made through your curated store. But just to ask you a question, do you think that this could potentially lead to any kind of quid pro quos happening in the background? Where a game publisher says, "Hey, I'll give you such and such if you put me on your list," and do you think that will happen?
Yeah, I'm sure it will somewhere. Because it's interesting. A lot of people, ethics and journalism, but publishers are at least more visibly underhanded when doing shady things like shoving a bunch of swag at journalists and saying, "Hey, if you give our game a good review, we'll all get paid." But I'm sure someone will try it, especially maybe not big ones like Ubisoft, Activision so much, but there might be some indie developers that just because they're new might not really be thinking about the ethical big picture, and more thinking of bottom line and like, hey, this is something I can use. It's like, hey, do this. It might,
Yeah.
But
I know that I'm pretty sure that this has already happened with Total Biscuit, where he's gotten a bunch of requests for games to be added, and from what I understand, is he just publicly said, "Hey, stop doing this. I'm putting the games that I want on this list. So stop telling me to, or asking me to put games on my list." So,
yeah.
which is I think it was a very good stand for him to take early on. So.
Yeah. So that answers the question. Yes, yes, publishers are absolutely going to be asking the top personalities to, put stuff on their list, put their stuff on their list. For the visibility. And I have people. I mean, I'm nobody on YouTube, but I have people tweet me occasionally and say, "Hey, will you talk about my game?" And probably not, but I mean, it
Is
depends
it a
on
Nintendo game?
yeah, link me to your game and I'll look at it, and if it's something that's interesting, I might talk about it, or I might tweet about it, or that's fine. But but then again, I'm not making any money at this, so I don't really worry about that. I mean, I did do a voiceover for one indie game, and I was thinking about doing a video talking about the game because I played it and I went, oh, this is actually kind of fun. And I'm still, I don't have time to do it now, but I was wondering exactly how to do that because it's like, oh, well, you got the game for free. It's $2. You got the game for free, and you did the voiceover, so you're biased. And it's like, yeah, I guess, but I only, pretty much the only reason I want to talk about it is, one, my voice is in it. I want you to go listen. And two, I actually thought it was kind of cool. I mean, it's not like this is the best game ever. It's a simple little. If you've seen Hex something, I forget what it's called. It's a simple indie game. It's pretty cool. It's called Shapes of Grey, if anyone's interested. Full disclosure, my voice is in it, I guess. I got a free copy.
If that isn't...
I already said that, but...
discussion,
Yeah. So, an interesting comment over on YouTube from Boo Hennessy. Logical fallacy drinking game. Take a shot of tequila whenever a fallacy from this list pops up, and lists a very, very long list of fallacious arguments ad hominem, affirming the consequent, amazing familiarity, blah, 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 blah. It says, by the end, you will be dead, cis white male scum. So, thanks for that, Boo Hennessy. I mean, I guess you can... we're about over with the show, so I guess it's
I do want to respond to something here. Matthew mentions that Kotaku was caught putting a game on their list that won't be out for 6 months. I don't see a problem with that. If they like the look of something that's on Steam Early Access or just on Greenlight or whatever, and they have the ability to put it there, and they want to get that game when it's out, why does it matter if they put a game
and the way you phrase this kind of weird. They got caught doing that? Were they trying to hide the fact that they did that?
You would think putting it on a public curated list would mean that they
not very well
worried about being caught. But yeah, I don't see a point in that. I talk about games that aren't out yet. I was talking about Heist, SteamWorld Heist earlier in the podcast. That game's not going to be coming out for another half a year or more, and I'm excited about it, and I want people to know about this game. There's other games out there. Cosmic Star Heroine by Zeboid Games is another game that's not out yet. Defender's Quest 2 by Level Up Labs is another game that's not out yet. I want people to know about these games. I want people to know about these games that I'm excited about, and I want them to make those games successful so that those developers keep making games because I like their games. So. No problem putting early games that aren't out yet on lists. I don't.
I don't see an issue with that either. I mean, unless at some point at some prior point, they removed it. Okay.
Okay. I guess.
Did they say before that we're not going to do that, or maybe they just clicked the wrong button and didn't even notice. Maybe there's a similarly named. I don't know. I'll look into it later. What the hell actually happened? Matthew, what was the name of the game? So that's our show for today. This week, anyway. Thank you, lovely people, all for watching and being nice. Except you, Boo Hennessy, on my YouTube channel. Although I guess I am a cis white male scum. I mean, I have been. Lydia Pine in high school called me unmitigated pond scum. So,
nice.
Yeah, I guess you're right. And it's hard to be mad at someone who uses the word unmitigated in an insult. Because she and I, we were in all the AP classes, all the advanced placement classes. So, Lydia Pine and me and Carolyn Goralchak and a lot of, all the real brainy kids in high school. She was having a really bad day. I don't even remember what it was. She called me unmitigated pond scum. That's so awesome. I love that. Anyway, so that's the show for this week. Let us plug our stuff and get out of here. My name is Andrew Eisen. E-I-S-E-N is the way you spell the last name. Plug that into YouTube. You will find all of my videos, including my most recent 150 games for everything but Wii U, which was actually written about in Forbes. So that was pretty cool. The list is actually up to 160 now. But
nice.
It talks about it crunches a bunch of stats. How many publishers that list represents, which publisher has the most? Electronic Arts at 19 games. What percentage are rated M? Things like that. So check it out. 150 games for everything but Wii U. Facebook, Andrew Eisen YouTube, Twitter @Andrew Eisen. That should cover it. A couple of people have asked if I'm doing Extra Life again this year. Yes, I just signed up for it. That's October 25th, Saturday. I'll probably start around noon. 24 hours of me streaming video games for charity, local Rady Children's Hospital here in San Diego. I'll be raising money for. So if you go to extra-life.org, search for participant Andrew Eisen, you'll find my page and you can make a donation. In order to advertise that, what I'm going to try to do, I'm still organizing this, but I'm going to try to stream some video games for at least an hour every Wednesday night, starting at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, for every Wednesday night in October up to the Saturday the 25th. So Twitch.com/Andrew Eisen is my Twitch channel, so follow me there and you'll be notified when I start the stream. Keep an eye on my YouTube channel. I'll announce something probably Tuesday. So keep an eye out for that. Good cause. Rady Children's Hospital is a cool, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a children's hospital here in San Diego. So good cause. Managed to raise, I think, $615 last year, so hopefully can beat that this year. Zachary, plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter @EZKnight, and you can also check out DK_gaming for my DivineKnightGaming.com Twitter there. You can also check out OK Game Devs on Twitter and OKGameDev.com for news about Oklahoma game development stuff. For my personal game development work, I have been slacking the past couple of months, and I feel really bad about it, so I'm going to work hard in October and actually get a game done. And my brother and I were actually in the planning stages of our next major project, and hopefully we'll have a good idea over the next few weeks what we're going to start and actually be able to get started with it, because we really want to get something cool out next year. But yeah, but again, I want to plug SteamWorld Dig. If you haven't played that, $10 isn't too bad for 5 hours of play. But if you can get it on sale, that might make you a little easier in the decision. But yeah, definitely check out all of those places and stuff and see what I do.
All right.
There you go.
You've been listening to episode 116 of Super Podcast Action Committee. We'll be back next weekend, Saturday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So watch us on GamePolitics.com live. We have a chat, so you can participate in that. And we've got a new drinking game, so you can follow along and take a drink every time we utter some type of logical fallacy and try not to die by the end of the show. So you can send us email at superpackpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @superpackpodcast. Subscribe and rate us on iTunes and like us on Facebook. If there's a subject you want us to cover or something you want us to talk about, let us know on Twitter, Facebook, or at Game Politics. Zachary and I are both there, wherever. So have a good one, and we will see you next week. Take care.
See ya.